Is the leader of Scientology trying to create more cult leaders, starting with Aaron Kyro of Braille skateboarding and the head of Scientology in San Francisco, and also Tom Cruise? Let's talk about it. Hey, everybody, welcome. I'm Natalie. This is Scientology Life After a Cult, where we talk about all kinds of Scientology and cult news here on the channel, touch on my 35 years in Scientology, and leaving with 3 generations of my family. Welcome to everybody who is here. Welcome to everybody in the live chat. Good to see the members there. Thank you so much for being here. And a big thank you to the moderators that are going to help us keep the wheels on the bus. So be sure, if you have a question, if you could put question in all caps and have your question follow, we can keep an eye out for that and get to as many of them as we can, because we have a lot to talk about. A lot. And I have concerns, people, and I need your thoughts on this. I really want to know what you think about a couple of things that I think is going on when it comes to Scientology, specifically with Aaron Kyro, who is the head of Scientology in San Francisco and also the head of Braille skateboarding. And many of you, I know that skateboarding, you're probably not all out skateboarding, right? So you might not be too familiar with the skateboarding community. We're going to get a little bit into it later on in this video, because it is important, because I think what's happening is much bigger than even I thought. But let's start off with a little bit of what is up with Tom Cruise. And is Tom Cruise being kind of groomed to be the next leader of Scientology? Could he be? Is he trying to follow in the footsteps of David Miscavige, or is that just kind of who he is to begin with? We're going to look at a couple things that's making me scratch my head and go, because I've had people ask me, do you think that Tom Cruise would run Scientology? And I've always thought, no. Now I'm like, I don't know. Maybe. So let's look at some things and you guys tell me what you think. Let's start out with, let's see here. There is a channel here on YouTube that did top 20 celebs who left fame behind. They did this particular part on Tom Cruise. Let's take a look.
Tom Cruise is widely recognized as a challenging and self-centered personality in Hollywood. While he is famed for executing his own perilous stunts, Cruise has also earned a reputation as a spiteful egomaniac who is infamously hard to collaborate with. His personal life has been under constant examination.
Spiteful egomaniac. Who does that sound like? If you have watched any of the content or seen stories earlier of people who work directly with David Miscavige, they've described him in the same way.
With all 3 of his ex-wives, Mimi Rogers, Nicole Kidman, and Katie Holmes, ending their marriages to him when they were 33 years old.
All right. Did you hear that part? What is up with that? Did you guys know that? Each of Tom Cruise's wives, they divorced when they were each 33 years old. I mean, I don't know what the mathematical odds are of that, I'm not good at the mathing. Maybe somebody tell me, what are the odds of that? Is it weird? Is it just me? Am I reading too much into this? Why does he get a divorce when they're 33? What is up with that? I kind of feel like it's a little bit of a rabbit hole separate from what I'm talking about right now, but I would love to know, is there any significance to those numbers? It's just weird. Mock says, I love it. Tommy's not going to be happy about it. Yeah, 33 again. And 3 of them. It's just weird. Florence says it sounds ritualistic. Andrew says that's the magic number in gematria, isn't it? I don't know what that is. So somebody tell me. If you're catching this on the replay, jump in those comments and tell me what you think as well, because it's weird. Okay, so T is saying, or Julie, I'm just glad they got away from him. Julie, right. Spot on. Andrew says, and that was an influence on Hubbard. Well, Crawley was. Yeah, exactly. So it's just something to kind of like put a pin in it. Just kind of like remember that, because I think there's some strange things going on with Tom Cruise and this whole thing with David Miscavige creating other cult leaders. I'm just saying, I have a suspicion. Now let's take a look at another part of that video that kind of gets into, well, you've heard some of these remarks, but what I also found interesting is what he's wearing. Maybe this is what inspired the staff uniforms, although what Tom Cruise is wearing actually is kind of nice, but the whole just the vest with the thing in the back, it just kind of had to make me laugh.
Cruise has also been criticized for his public statements, which include making derogatory remarks about women and fervently endorsing Scientology, the contentious religious organization he has been affiliated with for many years. His unwavering support for Scientology, which has faced accusations of abusive practices, has further solidified his image as a narcissistic and detrimental figure within the entertainment world. Cruise has also been criticized for his public statements.
Yeah, so we've known for years now that Tom Cruise has taken hits because of the comments that he's made. And many of these, I remember even when I was in Scientology, that's when he did the couch jumping on Oprah's couch. And honestly, that was the least of things that bothered me about Tom Cruise, him jumping on Oprah's couch. I was kind of like, I don't know, I think it's kind of romantic. But this whole thing about each of them being 33 when they got a divorce, I think is really interesting as well. And the fact that the way that Tom Cruise is being described by many of his peers and people who worked with him as being an egomaniac and difficult to work with. And it sounds like having some maybe narcissistic traits that you could switch David Miscavige with Tom Cruise, and I think see those similarities. Now let's take a look, speaking of David Miscavige. So if you're new to the channel, David Miscavige is the leader of Scientology. He is the dictator. He just runs the whole show. What he says goes, and that is it. Now, Scientology is a little bit in overdrive, I think you might say, in trying to combat the image out there, which is basically reality, let's be honest, that David Miscavige is a cult leader running a cult. I know that. You know that. Many people are coming to learn that. So you might think, well, what is Scientology doing about that? What is the Office of Special Affairs? In fact, hold on. We should wake them up. Office of Special Affairs. I know it's Sunday, so we're going to be kind of quiet. Ease you into it, but wake up. We need to talk. Okay, so I'm thinking this through. If David Miscavige, right, has run Scientology the way that he has, and we've all heard those stories, and now it's looking like Tom Cruise has similar personality traits, are they doing it together, or is Tom Cruise going to take over Scientology? I don't know. This is a question I was asked before, and I said, no, that is never going to happen. And I got to tell you, I'm wondering. So, people in the Office of Special Affairs, I don't know, maybe you could leak some documents. I know some of you want to leave. You can reach out, Natalie at lifeafteroccult.com. You can be quiet about it. We need to find out what's going on here, because this cult leader here, I think, is trying to create little mini cult leaders within Scientology. Grant Cardone, right? Tom Cruise, and recently Aaron Kyro. We're going to talk about some stuff coming up that really points to Aaron Kyro going full Scientology. And I think that's why his business is not doing well. We'll talk about it. So, but my Office of Special Affairs friends, you can go take a little nap again. We will wake you up if need be. But in the meantime, let's talk about how the Office of Special Affairs have been working hard in overdrive to combat David Miscavige's image. How do we know this? What makes you think that, Natalie? What makes you think that? Well, this makes me think that to start with. So this is an article so Scientology writes the articles, does these press releases, sends it out, and somehow I think different publications that aren't large publications, I'm not sure how they get into these. Sometimes it's oddly in a Kentucky online paper. It's just weird. It's weird. But they cover stuff like this. This article originally, I got to turn up the fan. Your girl's having a hot flash. This article was originally in Scientology. You know that their Stan League, that magazine, that online platform that they have where they basically talk crap about members and try to discredit them. So that's where this article was, but it's also in this World Religion News. Who knows what that really is about? And the gist of it, this is cringe. This is so cringe. Links down below, by the way, to all the videos, including this article, because I'm not going to read the whole thing, but we're going to take a look at this. And it is so cringe. It is. So it's talking about, but it kind of doesn't even make sense the way that it's written. So this guy's talking about this. He hears this voice behind him as he's walking down a corridor at one of my Scientology church. And so I'm wondering if this is written by someone too, where English might be their second language. The voice reached me from behind as I walked down the corridor of my Scientology church. During the split second that elapsed between hearing the voice and turning around to see its source, the thought flashed, that sounds familiar, but it but is it anyone I know? So he's writing about this encounter with David Miscavige. And this whole thing is about how great David Miscavige is, but it's written in just the weirdest way. Then I saw who it was. David Miscavige, ecclesiastic leader of the Scientology religion. He was smiling broadly. It was on a commercial during a Lakers game. It was hilarious. I laughed my head off. Here, David Miscavige. See, at first when I started reading this, I thought they were trolling David Miscavige. And then I realized, no, this is like they're trying to combat this whole cult leader image. So goes on to say that here, David Miscavige was a person I'd never had a conversation with, had only seen from a distance of 35 roles, give or take, from audience to stage, whose 24/7 job is protecting, preserving, and expanding a religious movement involving millions of parishioners and 11,000 churches, missions, and groups spanning some 170 countries, taking the time to tell me he'd seen my kid in a 15-second commercial on television and how much he liked it. So dude runs into Miscavige, or he's somewhere, and Miscavige brings up, hey, I saw your kid in a commercial. Okay. Okay. But then, so apparently Miscavige brings this up, and the guy's like, thank you, I said, and took his offered hand. You guys must be pumped, he grinned, shaking my hand. And then, with a wave and a salute, he was off. Okay, for one, and that's all I can take of reading this. It goes on and on with encounters like that in Miscavige. I just can't take it. A wave and a salute. Who salutes? For those of you who do belong to an organized religion or maybe a church, do you go around and salute other members? Is that a thing? Do you guys remember the event when Tom Cruise got his giant plate-sized medal, right? For coming back into the fold? That, he went and saluted, I think, David Miscavige and L. Ron Hubbard. That's why it's Little Davy's Fake Space Navy. There should not be any saluting. It's just weird. So if you want to go down the rabbit hole, link down below to that full article. And if you want to be cringe and grossed out, go ahead and read it. I did. It is kind of funny. It is. But it really shows the lengths to which, one, they're trying to combat the image, the reality, the knowledge that is out there that Scientology is a cult run by David Miscavige. And they're also trying to paint him as a thoughtful, more gentle man, not the man we've been hearing about who has been accused of physically beating his staff, including Mike Rinder. Mike Rinder has spoken multiple times about how David Miscavige beat him. Other senior Scientology Sea Org members as well. Jeff Hawkins, I had him on the channel some months ago. He shared his experience and he wrote a book about it, both of them. So there's multiple firsthand accounts of the physical violence that people suffered under David Miscavige. It's just, we're just not all going to forget about that. The internet is forever. It is out there. I'm not falling for it, but if any of you start falling in love with David Miscavige because of that recent article, tap a buddy. We need to have anti-cult partners to make sure we don't get sucked in. So Julie says, we don't salute people at my church and no one is ever assaulted. Yeah, exactly. Okay, now let's go take a look over at Oh No Nora. Nora did this great video where she touched on something that I think is really important. And it's on modeling. Well, the specific thing she's talking about in this clip is on modeling what love looks like, modeling love and healthy relationships for our children. And what I found so fascinating about this is because, as you know, Oh No Nora was in the Sea organization, was raised in Scientology. And how people raised in Scientology then navigate parenting after that, in most cases, most that I know personally, it's a really night and day difference. Because I think many of us who grew up and were raised in Scientology with those principles and those rules, even when we were still in, like myself, I'll speak for myself, I was still in Scientology, I didn't use a lot of those with my children. And I think that is obviously a good thing. But it's really interesting. I thought this was such a great clip. We're going to take a little look at this and we can discuss.
It's our responsibility to our children to model what love looks like, right? And neither of us were really happy. And I didn't want to model that for my kids. I didn't want to be an example of toughing it out because we have kids, instead of being really me being happy in my life and allowing him to be happy in his life, and showing our kids, like, even if we are changing how our family looks, the important thing is the love that we bring to it, the love that we bring to each other, the respect we have, and how by being ourselves and loving and being loved in those new relationships, we can show you guys what's possible. Because
just great. If you get a chance, go check out the whole video. I think I know I really appreciate it. It's interesting for me because so much of this I've gone through myself. It's on one hand, I have these shared experiences of these stories that I share and we recap here. So I feel like I see it in a couple of different ways and it just amazes me. It's a great chat about it. And I know I learned a few things. So go check it out. Link down below to the full video. All right. Now, TORY MAGOO 44 has been outside the Blue Buildings in Los Angeles doing her own little protest there, which has been fabulous. People have been enjoying her. And I've been loving that TORY's been answering questions. People show up and ask her about different things about Scientology and the Sea Org.
What's the advanced organization?
That's the big money.
Ah,
Big money.
because they also have the celebrity centers down
Yeah, that's a different thing. That's for artists and musicians, supposedly.
Yeah.
But since in the 90s, it evolved into the big money. Big money.
there. And what's
people
the
are
place in Hemet? Because I drove by that place
Yeah.
a couple times.
that used to be where the executives were.
Hemet's just weird anyway.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's like, I don't want to be in Hemet.
That's
People
spooky.
are like,
I mean, you can't really protest out in Hemet because it's just the road and the
Who would
property.
want to? We
That's it.
yeah,
went
we
out
love
there
being
once,
in Hemet.
and they
People in
had
Hemet don't
organ
want to be in
music
Hemet.
on so loud it hurt my ears so much. And this guy that was in the military said, "This is military grade volume," and he gave me these special earphones. And for 5 days, my ears hurt.
Wow. Very interesting too. I'm not sure about the timeline on when that was. I think it might have been previously, earlier when TORY was protesting Scientology. They went out to Hemet. I think there even might be a video of it on her channel. But that's still interesting too, that they tried to use organ music. And we've seen Scientology do this outside multiple different Scientology organizations, thinking that that would get rid of people live streaming outside Scientology. And it did not work. It didn't work. It did not. It just made it feel like more of a party until they started playing that creepy Scientology music. Then it was like, ooh, that's just poison to the ears. I will take the organ music. Thank you. Okay, speaking of music, if you guys were with me yesterday, were you guys here yesterday on the recap? Did you catch it? Maybe on the replay. We talked about how Scientology had put out this press release saying that they had this concert and art show on L. Ron Hubbard Way. It sounded like it could have been a series going on. Maybe it was one of the reasons they're claiming why they're, shutting down the street. And in this article that we talked about yesterday, they made it sound like it was this really big deal because it was this whole concert series and it was this art thing and all that. And I was wondering, like, I don't know. I mean, did it really happen? Is it happening? Because I've not seen anything about it. Well, Confident Chris, we can always count on him. He was there and he got some video of this concert and art show. So we're going to go take a look at this and see if it lines up with how you might expect it to go for Scientology. I got the volume muted just because of the music, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe there's 7 people. You know what? If you count the people in the band, that's like 10 people. So maybe 10 people a concert makes. It's very intimate. I know that I enjoy live music, but I don't like large crowds. So I don't tend to go to large venues. But if it's somebody that I like and it's at a smaller venue, I probably still don't go, but I want to go. I am more likely to do that. But look at that. This is on L. Ron Hubbard Way, where this is it. This is their concert. Where's the art? Just like what's happening here. I think it is very telling. And it is one of, let's be honest, many lies and deceptions that Scientology tells and uses. But we're looking at it. We're looking right at it. Right, James? Standing room only. You know they're going to say that. You know they're going to put out a press release. It was standing room only. People flocked. There is no bigger hype man than Scientology when it comes to blowing smoke up people's okoles, as we say in Hawaiian. Hey, there's your Hawaiian word of the day, okole, which means your butt. They're good at doing it in the cringiest of ways. You know what I'm saying? But they will just like make everything sound like millions of people, 11,000. I mean, just on and on and on and on. It's just it's just ridiculous. So ridiculous. Neuropsych says, that's just sad. Not really. But when you compare that to the hype of that press release that we read the other day, then you really get to see it's like, I don't know, Scientology. I don't know. We see you. We see what's happening. There's people there live streaming. We're going to know. We're going to know. Okay, let's take a look now over in San Francisco where Club Brain Fog was there. And do you remember, if you were here, if you were with me the other day, we talked about Hey Carrie Ann over in Portland. She's been out there in Portland live streaming. They bring those blinds down so fast when Hey Carrie Ann is there. Well, the other day she's out there and Hey Carrie Ann does have a wheelchair, and a Scientologist opens the door and like bangs it right into her wheelchair, knowing she's there. So Club Brain Fog had a similar experience, not in a chair. She was standing there, and you can see when you're coming out of Scientology if somebody's standing there, and she's off to the side of the door. This is where the door opens, you know, kind of like on the hinge. So it's not like she was standing right in front of it. And you can hear how it's just like, it felt like a lot of force. It felt intentional. Let's take a look.
You should have your address up here registered. Whoa. You're like
The attitude too that this guy walks off with says it all. It's a vibe.
you're
right?
lucky you
Look at this. I mean business. Let's go. This lady needs to follow me. Don't look back. Don't look back at the protester. You will turn to salt, sand, freeze, insert whatever it is. Don't look back. Go straight ahead. He went blowing through that door with tone 40 intention, as they would say in Scientology. Absolutely dumb. Absolutely dumb. So I guess kind of, keep an eye out, because apparently Scientologists are on a door throwing open rampage if somebody's live streaming out there. You just want to keep an eye, maintain, always be aware of your personal safety. Nobody wants to get hit by a door like that. But again, just shows that it's so childish. You see someone there. Do you need to be so like, throw the door open? Like, whatever. Okay, everybody, let's see. Oh, and little reminder while you're here in the chat, if you could show that like button and subscribe button some aloha, I would appreciate it. Absolutely. Big mahalo to all of you for doing that. Let's take a look now at a clip from Growing Up in Scientology, where it's a clip about Tom Cruise. And is Tom Cruise part of a campaign to get Scientology's tax exempt status in France? Because Tom Cruise got this award in France. So we're going to take a look at the clip and Aaron's thoughts on it. And then we are going to talk about it, because there's something here. I think he's right. We've seen something like this happen before, which we'll touch on.
I think this is part of a Scientology campaign to get Scientology recognized as a religion in France. Am I going too far out on a limb? I don't think so. Let's take a look at it. Let me make my case. All right, first of all, here's the main headline that's circulating. Tom Cruise awarded Knight of the Legion of Honor by France. Breaking news. In a somewhat secret ceremony, Tom Cruise was inducted on Friday as a Knight of the Legion of Honor by France's culture minister, Rachida Dati, in Paris. Tom Cruise is filming Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 2 in Europe. The honor is one of France's most prestigious decorations, presented in the past to Robert Redford, Martin Scorsese, and Clint Eastwood, among others. Dati posted a picture of herself posing with Tom Cruise.
So Tom Cruise gets this award in France. So the thought And I think that Aaron is right about this because we've seen in the past celebrities being used in other countries to stand up for and advocate for Scientology in that country. Way back in the day, wasn't it John Travolta who went to Germany, I believe, to do the same thing when Germany was like, hey, we're not down with Scientology. We think you guys are kind of culty. I do believe he went and tried to do some advocating for Scientology in that country. So Tom Cruise getting this award, which was probably lobbied for, may have something to do with getting in, right, through another celebrity to gain tax exempt status in that country. Because now Tom Cruise gets his award from France. Maybe people think, oh, Tom Cruise and all this. Then Tom Cruise can follow in with, hey, let's get some tax exempt status for Scientology here in France, as he gets all buddy with people there. So my hope is that they see him coming and they recognize that this is probably a ploy to get tax exempt status in France for Scientology. I think that's a thing. I think it's totally a thing in what's happening because they've done similar things before. So we learn a few things from the past. History does tend to repeat itself, and Scientology has only one playbook. They have to follow the dictates of L. Ron Hubbard. So if L. Ron Hubbard said to find what's called an opinion leader in Scientology, like Tom Cruise, and send them into a place to safe point Scientology. This is all right out of the L. Ron Hubbard playbook for expanding the cult and using celebrities to do it. It's a huge part of it. That's why these celebrity centers exist, to cultivate these relationships with celebrities who L. Ron Hubbard felt would hold legitimacy for Scientology in Hollywood and get more members in who other people will listen to. Well, for a hot minute, let's just take a look at how has that worked out for them. Cue the crickets. It has not, but they're still doing it. People are not joining Scientology in droves because of Tom Cruise, or really for any celebrity for that matter. It's just not happening. It's not happening that way. Okay, now we're going to jump into this whole Braille thing. So I want to let you guys know, Braille skateboarding, they have a channel here on YouTube. And if you're not familiar with the skateboarding world, I've been learning more about it. And I got to tell you, I'm here for it. I think it's really interesting. I didn't realize what a large community the skateboarding community was, and here on YouTube. It's been really cool to watch their videos and learn more about the different channels, but mostly it's been amazing watching them go at Aaron Kyro and his recent behavior. Now, Aaron Kyro is the head of Scientology in San Francisco. He also owns and runs Braille Skateboarding, also here on YouTube. He took off for, it was like 2-3 years to go train in Scientology to be the executive director. He walked off the line. He wasn't there doing videos. And then he comes back. And since he's been back, it just seems like things have are just falling apart, right? They closed their warehouse where the lessons and skating took place. And apparently when they did that, Aaron Kyro didn't tell people. He told a few people, but many of the skaters that were in videos that had so much to do with building this brand of Braille skateboarding weren't told. They didn't get to say goodbye. They didn't get to go and have that closure. Very cold. And then guess what else happened? When these same guys started saying, hey, like, what's going on? Why weren't we told? And why are you like cutting ties with people? And they're starting to find out about Scientology and the Scientology ties. Well, what happens? Aaron Kyro starts disconnecting from them and cutting them off and blocking them on things and removing and scrubbing them from his YouTube channel. Some of them. Some he just cut off and, blocked their calls and things like that. Well, these people are now sharing their story, and you're seeing in real time what happens when you use Scientology in your business. Aaron Kyro is the executive director of Scientology, the head of Scientology in San Francisco. This isn't just somebody in there doing a communications course. He is going to be held to a much higher ethical standard, especially since he was trained at Flag and Clearwater. He went to Clearwater and trained in Scientology management technology. He will be held to a higher standard. And these guys are not having it. So we're going to take a look at a couple of these videos here, because I also believe that this is speculation on my part, and this is my opinion. I think that both Tom Cruise and Aaron Kyro are being groomed to be their own cult leaders, almost like, like Grant Cardone is creating what, in my opinion, seems kind of like a cult. They practice disconnection. Anyways, that's a whole nother ball of wax, Grant Cardone. We're not getting so much into that one right now. We're talking about Aaron Kyro. So take a look at some of this. Whoops. We are going to look at this video here and a couple other ones.
The only thing that's kind of a big tell is if you go on the website, his name ain't there anymore. Also, his boards aren't there anymore. There's even a tab that I found here that says his name, and you click on it, and it comes up with, sorry, we couldn't find the page you were looking for.
So Aaron Kyro was part of this professional skateboard team, and he no longer is. And it's not really clear if he was dropped or he left. But when you are scrubbed to that level from a website where, they're still out there in Google, but you click on it and the page is gone and it's not there, that's really like someone's trying to get rid of you from their history. So if he just left and it was this mutual, calm, whatever thing, maybe there'd be a message of, hey, we wish him well or whatever. That I'm aware of, that has not come out. It just really looks like it gives that they got rid of him, but I cannot say that is fact.
So it's pretty clear to me that he is no longer with Revive. Now, whether they dropped him or whether he left due to this whole thing that Ricky Glaser said about Scientology and how he has to kind of cut people off, I have no idea.
And that is the thing. It's not 100% clear, but if we can go off of the behavior that we've been seeing, I don't know, right? Walks like a duck, sounds like a duck, quacks like a duck, might just be a duck. And that's what I think is happening here. So it goes a bit deeper with, and this is what I mean by, because some of us, you might not be following these channels and realize how huge this is rippling through this community that is fairly tight knit. And this backlash with Aaron Kyro online on multiple social media platforms due to Scientology and disconnection is huge. And I love that they're calling it out.
And for Aaron, I don't really know what to say about that guy. He seems to be getting backlash left, right, and center. All of his Instagram posts, because he is still posting like nothing's happened, they're all just getting slander underneath them. There's just all the comments are pretty much hatred towards him. There are like a handful of people that are being nice to him in there, but it's few and far between. And also another thing, I know I mentioned Gabe in the last video saying that he left at the right time. Well, since then, he's seemingly come back onto the Braille channel. So I don't know whether he's the only one that Aaron's still talking to, or where he stands, or what's actually going on there.
So apparently Aaron Kyro has disconnected from many of these people. And some of these channels are very large channels that talk about skateboarding and that whole world. And they are all talking about this. This is Dan Webb's. We've highlighted videos from him before. Let's pop in here.
I'm not happy at how this whole thing panned out, like how the warehouse has been destroyed. These kids have been caught in the crossfire, all the Scientology things. And by the way, if you want to see the full extent of the Scientology and how deeply rooted it is in Braille, I would recommend going to check out them 2 Aaron Kyro videos that I showed you at the start of this on my channel, because I show you guys exactly how many people in the company are under Scientology, and it's shitloads. Let me just quickly bounce back to this one real quick. Like if we go to the Braille channel, you see this person right here, where is it? Chloe. So this person that they're with, Chloe, she's a heavy Scientologist. So is Lance. First time that I mentioned that in a video, they copyright struck the video illegally and tried to get my whole channel taken down through YouTube. Thank God I had a lawyer on my team and YouTube managed to side with me in that case. So many people were like, don't go up against Scientology. You're going to lose. They're going to make you look like a fool. But thankfully, I actually managed to win that case and obviously put out the information there that a lot more of the Braille members are in Scientology than you would expect. None of
Yeah, he did a whole video naming them all. And it's one thing, it's like you might ask, well, Natalie, what does it matter what somebody's religious beliefs are when they're out there doing a job? I mean, it really doesn't matter until it's negatively affecting other people. And it really shows that the more, this is my opinion, based on where I sit and watching this thing unfold, the more Scientology was interjected into Braille skateboarding, the more it fell apart, the more the community started to fall apart, Because let's be real, those of you who've been following Scientology here on my channel and others in this community, you know that Scientology is not about community, is not about building and enhancing these relationships. It's about forwarding the aims of Scientology. It's about expanding Scientology. It's about protecting Scientology. And you can add David Miscavige to all of that as well, protecting Scientology and David Miscavige. So it's very interesting that they are calling this out. And it's wonderful because here's the other thing. So many young people, from kids to young adults and beyond, are actually into skateboarding. And word is getting out to that community about this cult and even some of the signs to watch for in a cult like Scientology that is targeting young kids, because Scientology can no longer recruit second, third generation Scientologists. They're catching on in large part due to a little thing called the internet and social media. So this is exciting to me on so many levels because it's acting to expose Scientology, the harmful practice of disconnection, while also then educating many young people that there are cults like this and you need to be aware and you need to have your eyes open about it. So always something to learn. And I just love that it's coming out this way and it's going to continue. You can just see this story is just building and building, and it's not good for Scientology, let's be honest, which makes me happy. Hey, Sal Goodman, thank you for being a member for 2 months. Thank you, Natalie, for still being the morning show. Thank you. I appreciate that so much. Kimmy Steele, thank you for being a member for 4 months. After watching many of the ex-Braille recent videos, I think Kyro was being groomed by Scientology for the last 20 years with a young, mostly male following. Girl. Yes, I think so. This is what we're seeing. I think that was probably a plan. I mean, I could just see in this, when I put myself in the Scientology mindset, which I hate to do, but I do it for y'all. I get it. The Scientology mindset, the organization, the cult of Scientology would be, let's get people like Aaron Kyro, who is a thought leader or opinion leader, as it's called in Scientology, for all these people. He's got millions of followers on YouTube. He's built this brand, this community. We can get him on staff. We can get him being the face of Scientology. Maybe we can get all these kids into. It's how they think. Scientology doesn't do anything unless it's forwarding the aims and the expansion of Scientology. The crazy thing is, it doesn't work. This is what ends up happening today in the world with the internet, all these social media platforms. People are going to talk about your bad behavior. And guess what, Scientology? It's not just ex-members of Scientology talking about it anymore, which they've always said, oh, those are just, people who were in Scientology and now they're just talking bad about it because they're butthurt ex-members. No, these are people who are having firsthand experiences with a Scientologist like Aaron Kyro, who practices Scientology, who's very trained in how to run a Scientology organization, tries to apply that to his business, which then seems to be falling apart. So it's great exposure for Scientology in all of the right ways. Now, we're going to talk about another cult and some similarities to Scientology that's coming up. We're going to hop over now and talk about Shawn Mendes. Shawn Mendes, there is a video here on YouTube by Not the Good Girl. I love that channel. If you're not watching Not the Good Girl, she's done some great things about Scientology, Scientologists, and this comparison she's making. So the video is about Shawn Mendes, the cult, and Thor, the Modern Mystery School. It's a mini documentary. Now, the Modern Mystery School sounds like it's this school that, well, we're going to look at a little bit in the video and you'll see it does give a cult vibe. I don't know a ton about it, but we're going to get into the similarities with Scientology as well. And this is kind of scary if Shawn Mendes is really involved in this.
It's not her work history or the 12-year age difference, which has ignited debate among.
Now, this is the woman that allegedly got Shawn Mendes into this alleged cult here, the Modern Mystery School. And so often, you've probably heard me say this before, and I'm going to say it again. People get recruited into cults through romantic relationships. You need to be aware of this. So many people I know in Scientology got into Scientology because they dated a Scientologist. I guess it's no different with many things, but this is a huge thing in cults, especially with the love bombing behavior. So anyways, this is the woman. I think she's 12 years older than him, and which I'm like, whatever, girl, you do your thing. But got him into this, what looks like maybe a cult.
Amongst Sean's fans. Charlie is allegedly associated with the Modern Mystery School, also known as MMS, which is an organization whose mission, according to their website, is to create peace on this planet by uplifting the hearts and minds of humanity. MMS has labeled themselves as, quote, the Harvard of Metaphysics, and promises a transformational journey that will definitely change your life and that just might change the world. The owner of the Modern Mystery School is a man named Gudny Gudnason. It's not her work history or the 12-year age difference, which has
Gudny Gudnason. So we're going to look at a little bit more about this and the similarities to Scientology.
Not dissimilar from the tiers of Scientology, and the connections to the structure and operation of Scientology don't stop there.
So in this cult, they have these tiers similar to Scientology, like she's saying. It's really interesting how much it gives Scientology cult stuff.
Scientology promotes the use of auditing, where individuals use an e-meter to explore their spiritual condition. I go over this in detail in my documentary about Tom Cruise, Scientology, and the women left in their wake. But instead of auditing, MMS has its own technique to connect members with their deepest life force. This is known as DNA activation or life activation. In MMS, they believe that everyone has 24 strands of DNA, 12 physical and 12 spiritual. MMS guides use a process similar to Reiki, but with crystal wands rather than hands, to activate 22 of these strands.
Now, my biggest beef with this, I'm just going to say it, Scientology, why didn't we have crystal wands? What's up with that? No crystal wands. I would have loved a crystal wand. Now, I wouldn't have stayed in Scientology for it, but I'm just saying it might have been a little bit better. It would not have, let's be honest. So this is really interesting because, again, we have somebody who is a young, influential celebrity. This really gives early Tom Cruise. I'm not saying Shawn Mendes is like Tom Cruise. I am not saying that. I'm saying that when Mimi Rogers, older woman, started dating, married Tom Cruise, got him into Scientology, Mimi Rogers ended up leaving Scientology. And you may not know, Mimi Rogers, his first wife, was a second generation Scientologist. And she left. Then he's in Scientology. So now you have Shawn Mendes and you have this woman who's from this cult, this older woman. She dates him, gets him into it. And it really gives off a lot of Scientology cult vibes. Now, I have not done a full deep dive into this other organization / cult, but I'm going to because, let's be honest, I want to know more about the crystal wands. That really just got my attention there. Mary says, yes, Natalie, but you had Xenu and Body Thane. So there's that. That's true, Mary. But, I can't wave that around, unless I use one of the Body Thanes I got from Feral Cheryl on the loose, which I keep back there. Some of them hide out in the plant. That's so true. But, you got to say, I think magic wands, though, crystal wands adds a whole just another thing to it. You guys tell me what you think about all this. Tell me in the comments. If you're catching this on the replay, be sure. And remember, you can always email me, Natalie@lifeaftercult.com. If you see something, say something cult related, you let me know and maybe we'll chat about it. Let's see. Be Mary for Life says Tom Cruise has cult of Scientology staff who are paid by Scientology, not Cruise, a housekeeper and staff at each residence. Those of his grown children, at least one personal assistant, publicist, pilot, is in the cult of Cruise. You are correct about that. David Miscavige was very intentional when he got Tom Cruise back into the fold, which was largely done through Marty Rathbun, who left the Sea Org, turned whistleblower, but then seemed to kind of flip-flop the other way. So not totally sure what's happening with that. But point being, once he got him back into Scientology, The love bombing. Here's your big award that you get so you can salute L. Ron Hubbard. He was given all of that. Then when they were done breaking up his marriage with Nicole Kidman and turning her children against her, then it became, let's go on the hunt for a wife for Tom Cruise because he needs a partner. And that's when the audition started, and in came Katie Holmes, who then turned 33, and out went Katie Holmes, which I'm glad she did. She packed herself up, grabbed that baby, and got out of there, which was very wise to do. All right, let's see here. Kitty 1838 says, I wonder if the pro skaters know about this like Tony Hawk. You mean like if they know Tony Hawk? Probably. It's a whole nother generation. But yeah, I don't know how much they would follow. Is Tony Hawk, I should look up and see if he has a YouTube channel. Like I said, I'm learning more about the skateboard community and I am fascinated by it. And I don't even skateboard, and I'm probably not going to start because my insurance isn't that great. And those deductibles, I'm like, no, that's how I make all my decisions. Can I do that activity? Let me check where I'm at with my insurance deductible. And if I still have a long ways to go, I'm like, no. Cannot afford to sprain an ankle today. But it does sound cool because it reminds me of surfing. Let's see. But you're right. There are staff members in Tom Cruise's house that are Scientologists. Okay. I got to share this joke with you guys that Power Lies to Paralyze shared. What's the difference between Scientology and Ancient Aliens? You know, the show Ancient Aliens? One is an alien-based pyramid scheme, and the other is a pyramid-based alien scheme. That's compliments of Power Lies to Paralyze today, and I thought it was absolutely hilarious. Oh, she means, do you think Tony Hawk knows about Aaron Kyro and Scientology? Ooh, I bet, because I feel like that's something somebody would tell him. Hey, guess what? You're not going to believe this. Oh, how it'd be interesting to hear from him about that, truly. That really would. Huh. Miss Kim says, Julie, you're right. They do. I guess up and coming cult leaders go study other cults. That's true. It's totally true, Miss Kim. And many other cult leaders actually had their start in Scientology. The head of NXIVM started in Scientology. The head of EST started in Scientology. So Scientology has been known to have little offshoots of other cults, which is why when I look at things like what Grant Cardone is doing with 10X and the kids, you know, with the, what do they call it? Kids 10X. And the way that some things are set up, and you see people leave that organization and they're starting to talk and they're sharing they're very similar things between Scientology and how things are being run in that organization, which of course would automatically make it culty. Sovereign Brand, don't hate on the crystal wands because of this though. Crystal wands rock. Hey, I am not hating on a crystal wand. This girl wants one. So no, not at all. But I do think it's interesting, right? Neuropsych, the whole wands and DNA. And I'm like, you know, believe what you want to believe. That's fine, as long as you're not hurting anybody else in the process. But it's interesting. It's interesting. I'm just trying to imagine in my mind Shawn Mendes with a crystal wand. Like, what do you do with it? And you know, because I have friends who work in Reiki and energy healing and things like that. So I'm not saying like I am not against that. The way this guy is setting it up is a little sus to me for sure. The way his organization is working with the pyramids, you know what I'm saying? Like multiple levels, and it's big on recruitment in that cult that Shawn Mendes is allegedly involved in, where you recruit more members. You know, when you start getting into that, then it's like, I don't know, why can't you just enjoy? Why can't you just be there for yourself? And, you know, if it's something that you want to introduce to friends, but the pressure to sell and create this downline it just like, well, what, now you're getting into something else completely different. Ben says, man, I love some of the colors of those crystal wands. Yeah, me too. Me too. All right, let's see. Be Merry for Life. Who was with Tom Cruise at the Olympics this morning? Where was David Miscavige? Aren't they seen out together? They have not been seen out together in a long time. I feel like outside of Scientology events, and tell me in the chat if you know of something different, or if you're catching it on the replay, tell me in the comments. When I think about the last time Tom Cruise was photographed with David Miscavige, I feel like it was when it was David Miscavige and his assistant, Lou, and they went to it was like Daytona or something. They went to some big car race, and there were photos of that. I don't know if you guys remember that. I feel like that's the last time that actually saw them together. Deer in the Headlights says Tom Cruise dating Victoria, is it Canal, whose Wikipedia page states she is bisexual, is interesting. Oh, I did not know that. Have to look into that for sure. See what that's about. Nothing on me is fake. Cults, recruiting, and MLMs are way too similar. That is true. That is very true. We do see some overlap there in techniques. And yeah, so that's what I got for you. Please hit that like button, check your subscribe button on the way out. We are going to be talking about a lot of this in the coming days because especially the Aaron Kyro stuff is really starting to blow up. I'm hoping that other channels cover it as well and does a deep dive because there is so much more. We just highlighted and touched on it. And make sure you go down to the description of this video. You can see all of the videos and articles that we chatted about, so you can go check those out. And if you like those creators, go ahead and subscribe and follow them as well. In the meantime, everybody, I hope you get out and have the most amazing cult-free day.